thank you so much for coming. I am super excited to kind of share what we're up to and kind of how we're thinking about adoption in general from the Viva perspective. And then we'll kind of do a quick introduction. You also, if you had the other bingo card of how many people could you get in one session, we might win for 4 of us, 4 or 5 of us as well. So my name's Allison Michaels. I'm on the Viva Engage product team, and hopefully you've had a great session or great conference so far. You've got one more day left, so hopefully you are almost transformed, and you're not so sick of hearing about Copilot, because we're definitely going to be talking about it a lot. So I've been around for a while in a variety of different roles from marketing, and now I'm on the product side. I talk to customers like the team over here that is probably going to be very, very interactive. So grateful that you've made the trek all the way out here as well. Who wants to go next?
Sure. My name's Chris Bortlick. I'm a principal architect at the Microsoft Technology Center in Boston. I've been here about 16 years and spent about 14 years as a customer prior, so I can empathize with both sides of this.
Great. And I am Britt Boston, and I am a product manager on the Viva Amplify team.
And my name is Jeffrey Manning. I'm actually a senior product manager on the Fast Track Viva side of the house.
So we come and represent a variety of orgs, worlds. We all report up into different people. So this was truly a cross-collab effort to kind of pull this all together. So really excited. So what we're going to talk about today, and we're going to kind of take you on a very fast journey of a variety of different apps that that kind of fall in the Viva world. We're first going to talk about adoption and measurement. We're going to break it up into 3 different sections. We'll talk about Viva for communication, Viva for skilling, and we'll land with Viva for measurement and what that looks like. We'll talk a little bit about next steps, and if we've got time, Q&A, but also you probably like, I want to leave and go to Universal. But we're all happy to have any further conversations as well. So if you've been in any of the Viva sessions already, you might have already seen this slide before, but something that I think is maybe not new, but just kind of as we think about using technology to help from a change management perspective and kind of hit users exactly and employees exactly where they are, we're going to be talking a lot about the adoption side of the world. We'll talk about how to use these tools, and some of you might already be using these things for rolling out other capabilities. We're going to be talking about it from a Copilot perspective, but just know if you're not already at the Copilot world, you could kind of rinse and repeat this for using other types of technologies. We also know that driving successful adoption starts with clear communication. Whether you're using Copilot or not to start some of those communications, we'll show you what that looks like and what that could look like with some of the capabilities that we have. And also the ability to share knowledge and expertise within different communities and where people are kind of raising their hands. This is their first step into AI. What does that look like? How do we upskill them if they're new to prompting and you're starting at the very beginning versus some of us who might have been playing with ChatGPT for the last few months. And so we're really good at getting what we want closer to the first draft. And then, of course, how do we measure this? Where are the gaps? Where can we focus our next effort, our next campaign, our next set of communications, our next kind of set of learnings, and where do we find more of that? All right, so here's kind of the journey that we're going to head on. So hang on. I don't know if any of you have been to Disney or Universal tonight. We are literally going to go on a train ride through all of the different Viva apps. There are quite a bit that we're going to talk about today, and some of them you have. Some of them are a part of different bundling options and different licensing. But kind of stay with us as we talk about this. We're going to talk about Viva Amplify, talk about Viva Engage, Viva Learning, Viva Insights, Viva Glint, Viva Pulse, and we're going to land on Viva Goals. So we're kind of doing the whole roundup, so hang on, because we're going to be talking about a lot of different apps. Sometimes it feels a little bit like a family reunion where there's lots of different apps, lots of different peoples, lots of different ways to use the tools, and our customers use these, and they're at variety points of adoption for each of the tools as well. All right, Britt, you want to take it over?
All right, so Viva for Communications. Let's start there. All right, so Viva for Communications. So when we talk about Viva for Communications, we're primarily talking about Viva Amplify and Viva Engage. And you can leverage these two apps for your Copilot rollout and adoption. They're excellent for connecting all of your employees, giving them lots of information, making them aware of Copilot, engaging those employees with one another where they can share ideas, they can share prompts that worked, prompts that didn't work, connecting them with your champions network, et cetera, in the communities. So lots of goodness there. But what we want to talk about today is there's some unique things that both of these two apps are bringing specifically around Copilot adoption. So we're going to talk a little bit more about that. So for Viva Amplify, we are just releasing a Copilot deployment kit. So this will be available at the end of this month. And it is a new pre-built campaign in Amplify. So I don't know if any of you were here at the earlier session where Caruana was talking about all the great resources available on adoption.microsoft.com for Copilot. But this is leveraging a lot of that content that we've learned from Microsoft's own internal rollout. So what is in this pre-built campaign? It includes 8 pre-drafted communications that help your users. So all that content's already there. And you can send that out through the different channels, Outlook, Teams, SharePoint, etc. All right, so let's see what this looks like. Do I just click and it will start to play? Yeah, all right. So where do you find this? So when you go to that campaign homepage in Amplify, you will see a new banner at the top that says, hey, are you ready to deploy Copilot? You can get this campaign. And so if you click on that little button to get the campaign, you will get it. And that will start you into the normal campaign creation flow in Amplify, where you can select or update the title of the campaign, the description, and you can select the language. This pre-drafted content is available in all the 51 languages that Amplify is available in, so all that content gets translated for you when you build this campaign. You can select your campaign members just like normal, and then build that campaign. And so all that gets instantiated on the back end. Just another quick comment about where the content comes from. We also leverage the insights and learnings from our early adopter program for Copilot. Got their ideas about what kind of content would be most useful to drive that adoption and that rollout. All right, so here's the campaign. As you can see there at the bottom, there's these communications that are already there. And then we'll look at those in a minute. But if you go to the campaign brief, we've also pre-drafted the brief for you that talks about the purpose of the campaign, the objectives of the campaign, the key messages. It outlines each of the weekly communications so you know what is supposed to be sent when and get everybody on the same page. And then if you go to the Publications tab, you'll see, keep going. I'm a little fast. Okay, Publications tab. You will see all 8 of the communications. Again, these are pre-drafted. There's a little indicator in the title of which week we would recommend that you send that out. Again, there are 8 weekly communications. It starts with a get ready for Copilot to help your employees know what to do, some things that they can do to get ready for Copilot. Then there's a launch communication followed by 5 app-specific communications. So how do you use Copilot in Teams? How do you use it in Excel, Outlook, PowerPoint, Word? And then it ends with one more communication on Copilot and how it can solve some complex work problems. So if we look at side 1 of them, just so you get an idea of what's in each of these communications, most of them start with a short video, so some really engaging content there. And then they have these little snackable sets of information with lots of sample or example prompts to try. So it's very actionable information. The people that receive these can understand what they need to do and how to do it, how to use Copilot. And then there's some more resources there at the bottom. And then if you go all the way back out to that campaign homepage, now that campaign just sits as a card there on your campaign homepage like any of your other campaigns. And so the other members that you've added to that campaign can see it. They can come in, edit those communications before you send them out, be part of your approvals process, scheduling to send them out, etc. And then, of course, one of the benefits of sending all these communications through Amplify is the reporting. So you'll be able to see across those different communications, the engagement, who read it, et cetera. And get an idea of which channels, depending on what channels you've selected to send those communications out, where the response is, and get some idea of maybe we need to send week 3 out again. Not very many people read that or looked at it. So hopefully that will give you some really good insights on what to do. So again, this Copilot deployment kit will be available at the end of this month. And then I'm going to hand it back to Allison to talk about what Engage is doing.
All right, and so similarly, we have recently just put in a preview, and again, at the end of this month, will be available live, but we will be able to kind of create a community for Copilot adoption, kind of community in a box, right? So we're going to have the ability to have sample content, just like she showed, that matches the Amplify messaging and templates as well as additional pre-seeded conversation starters and dynamic membership. So I'll show you what that looks like. But based on who has Copilot license, and I don't know if this is like a big C Copilot or a little C Copilot, but who has Copilot licenses, it will say, hey, maybe they need to be added into this community. So kind of like smart recommendations of who to be added into the community as well. And then, of course, if you've been around for Engage for a little bit, you might know about the ability to have questions and answers, kind of the ability to search through all the other questions that have been asked and answered. I have a demo in here of also being able to upload content, and then Engage will use AI to kind of match question and answer pairs. So your community starts with some of those questions and the commonly asked questions that folks would have getting started with Copilot. Additionally, you can use announcements and Leadership Corner to kind of highlight the leadership messaging as well. I don't know if any of you caught our other couple sessions about how leaders are using Engage, but lots of different ways that leaders are using Engage to kind of share about Copilot and share what's coming and what's next and what's new. And then, of course, kind of having a hashtag campaign, an officially branded hashtag that goes across the network, or it can be scoped to just your community. So, for example, on the Microsoft network, we have a variety of different official hashtags about Copilot. We've kind of have a Microsoft Copilot hashtag, as well as Cooking with Copilot, so people share their favorite prompts and what they're learning. Yesterday, we heard from one of the customers that their Copilot pilot, their team has to post in their community in order to kind of keep their Copilot license of something that they've learned every 30 days. So it kind of keeps what they've learned and what they're trying out in all of the different Copilots as well. And then, of course, hosting virtual events. So this is just kind of a snapshot of what this Copilot community will look like. And kind of it'll give you an onboarding checklist. If you're brand new to being an admin of a community, it'll kind of prompt you, hey, here's a couple of the things that you should be doing in the community. This is the dynamic membership of what this could look like based on your licenses. It's looking at your Copilot licenses. Hey, these folks have licenses. They should be kind of brought into the community. And then here's kind of just a snapshot overall of the conversation starters that are relevant to this community, as well as the top questions that are being asked in the community as well. What is Copilot? And then if a user clicks on those, they'll be directly added to those questions as well, and kind of see what are the top questions. I know a lot of my customers are really excited about the top questions because they want to have a little bit of insight of like, what do people keep asking? They're really curious about. So this is a demo of the intelligent uploader. So I'm going and I'm uploading a Copilot 101 doc that I pulled from the support doc, Microsoft.com, and I've uploaded it as a Word document. Copilot is going to pair that out into question and answers, and then I can decide whether or not I want to post them into my community. So when I have new members into the community, there's something there for them to look at, something that for them to search for, and then it populates the feeds with these questions as well. So that way, when a new user joins or a new employee joins that community, there's content there too. This is actually available in any of the communities where Answers is turned on, but I just wanted to show you specifically for Copilot. This right here is I'm showing you the different drafted communities that are drafted content, very similar to what Britt showed you, but what it looks like in Engage. And Megan will give you a draft of an announcement to post to welcome folks to the community. You can draft and schedule it whenever it makes sense for your communications within Viva Engage. And so we'll kind of give you that pre-seeded content that you have a really, truly kind of that community in a box. So as much of a lift as we can do for your community admins to kind of get this off the ground, we're trying to do that as well. And of course, we're going to kind of point you either way to kind of make sure that you're sending your messages and from Amplify and back and forth, making sure that the connections are built from Engage to Amplify. As you'll start to see, the apps are continually working on improving, talking better together and talking to each other, because then that way the endpoints are really clear. So you do it once, publish everywhere. All right?
So how many of you, out of curiosity, are using Viva Learning today? A few of you? Okay. How many of you are using Viva Insights today? The personal insights? The organizational insights? Okay, great. So we've been doing a lot of work, as folks know, around skilling in Microsoft 365. One of the big changes that's coming soon is the idea around skills in Viva. So as folks know that use Viva Learning, there is the ability for people to express their interests. So when you first run Viva Learning, you can pick the interests, the things that you're interested in. We're moving beyond just having interest into thinking about skills. So skills will come from a few different places. One is initially coming from what we're seeing happening out on LinkedIn and being able to pre-seed in skill and taxonomy to understand some of the top skills, but giving individuals the ability to identify where they're at in their skilling journey. Are they a beginner? Are they intermediate? Are they advanced? Based on where they're at in their skilling journey, in their learning path, can help them to identify the appropriate content to help them along their way. One of the things that we did announce recently, though, is we're adding into Viva Learning, this is already shipped, and I can show it to you live in a second, the ability to have an academy that's pre-built for Copilot. So folks are using Viva Learning, you'll know that we have the ability to connect to a learning management system, such as SAP SuccessFactors, Saba, Cornerstone, Workday, as well as connecting to other content sources, whether it's Microsoft Learn, LinkedIn Learning, Pluralsight, Coursera, a number of different content sources. Well, one of the abilities that we have is certainly to have required training coming from the learning management system, but also having the ability to build optional learning paths. So a learning path might be something that a manager might assign to their employees, a mentor, a coach. So we've gone out, we've built a pre-built learning path inside of Viva Learning to help with skilling for getting ready for not just Copilot, but any sort of generative AI. So the Copilot Academy was announced about 2 weeks or so ago. It does enable us to bring in content that's publicly available through things like Microsoft Learn. One of the big advantages of this, though, is we've gone out and we've done the work to actually build the path. There's not sending people out to Microsoft Learn, hoping they find the right content, having the ability to manage that. It is preloaded and pre-configured. As an administrator for Viva Learning, you can disable that if you don't want to use our Learning Academy. If you want to build your own, you can copy things like the learning paths that are there. A big change we did make as well is historically, Viva Learning and some of these advanced capabilities like academies were part of the premium Viva license. And that's still the case right now, but coming this summer, if you have a Copilot for Microsoft 365 license, you will get the ability to leverage Copilot Academy in Viva Learning with no additional licensing. Certainly there's additional value for Copilot for Viva Learning overall with using it for your LMS connections and other things. But if you really want to help enable and skill people up for Copilot, we want to enable you to do that because it's in both of our best interests to help you with enabling your employees on their skilling journey. So I'm just going to pop out real quick and show you what exists today. So I am here in a live environment. It's not Microsoft production, but this is a live tenant that has the premium Viva licensing as well as Copilot for Microsoft 365 enabled. And what you see is today I do have the ability to go in and identify my interests. As I mentioned, interest over time will be expanded into skills. And there'll be additional controls over time around having people have the ability to, again, pick their level as well as having some sort of review and approval around that. But what we've done is we've enabled in academies what we're calling the Microsoft Copilot Academy. And you notice in my environment, we've already created other academies. We created an academy for engineering employees, an academy for sales employees. The one that says our Copilot Academy, that was one that I had created a couple of months ago before the product team built this into the product. So some of the concepts we're showing you, you can do some of them right now. The work we're doing is to bring it into a first-party, out-of-the-box experience to minimize some of the additional steps you need to do in Engage, in Amplify, and in this case, inside of Viva Learning. So if I click into the Microsoft Copilot Academy, and I scroll down, what you will see is 4 different, or actually, I guess 5 or 6 different curated learning paths. So this is something that's really great because individuals can go through this at their pace. It does link out to the different content sources that are out there that Microsoft is managing, and we're keeping the content up to date. But it really helps with helping people to understand what is Copilot. Introduction to prompting, if you're not used to prompting and prompt engineering and how to craft a well-formed prompt. How they can leverage Copilot to save time. How they can use it to create and transform content. How they can use it for collaboration and engagement, and then how do they think about putting it all together across an end-to-end scenario. As an administrator, there is the ability, as I mentioned, to go out and manage the different academies that are there. So if someone wanted to go out and actually manage the different features in the academies, there is the ability for people to go out and actually, if you wanted to, configure the academy, as well as if you wanted to disable it. In this case, this is the preloaded academy. It's a simple enable or disable switch. It's enabled by default, but if you wanted to, you could disable it, as well as you've seen, create additional academies that you might target at different audiences of folks. So this is something we're very excited about, something that folks have been asking us about for a while to have it in product, and I'm happy to say that this has already become available based on your license type. So when you get the slides, these are loaded up into the Hoover app. This is just an example of the disabling of the academy if you want to know how to do that when you get back. It does require you to be identified as an administrator for Viva Learning. As you see, I don't have to go to the Office 365 administrative portal. It's directly inside of the Viva Learning experience. And as I mentioned, it is right now available to customers leveraging Copilot for M365 that have the premium Viva license, and over time, it'll be available to all Copilot for M365 customers. It started off in April in English only, and rolling out this month, we will be adding the 8 additional languages that Copilot supports as well. So folks that have folks in different languages, in different areas, we want to make sure we're meeting folks where they are in their preferred language as well. So the next bit is how do we leverage Viva for measurement? Folks might have seen some of this in some of the keynotes, but we've been doing a lot of work around insights, certainly the telemetry around how people are engaging inside of Viva Engage and how well campaigns are doing inside of Viva Amplify. But the typical question is, I'm leveraging Copilot. How do I know if we're getting a return on that investment? There's an initial cost for that. How do we make sure we're maximizing that? How do we identify what are the right people to start off with in a pilot? How are we leveraging where there's an opportunity to maybe run and ask me anything in Viva Engage, or maybe there's a campaign, we're pushing out content in Viva Amplify. So how do I identify who those champions are and where the opportunities are to help tell their story? Viva Insights has the ability for us to have and this is available today, but to have something that's called the Copilot Dashboard. Now, my environment is a demo environment, so it doesn't have the best data, so I'm going to roll a video that has a better data set. The environment I'm in is shared by the 40 technology centers globally, and we're not actively using it for the real world, but just wanted to give you a flavor for, this is live, this is available today. You can get visibility into, are the licenses assigned, how many people are actively using Copilot, the cases where people are leveraging Copilot, how many meetings are they using it, how does that tie back to some of the hard cost and soft cost benefits that we've derived through the early access preview program customers, how are we driving adoption within the organization, and this is where things get a little bit wonky in my demo environment, but based on how we've identified the number of people, the threshold is 5 or more people to show the data, understand are they using in the different apps, depending on your role, having the ability to scope it to different organizations, different departments, and then really starting to understand what is the impact. So as we think about Copilot, exploring things inside of the meetings and getting visibility where we can start to identify how is Copilot being used between people across different departments? So maybe we started with Copilot in sales and Copilot in marketing. We want to see how it's going. We want to compare what is the meeting experience like for people that have Copilot, people that don't have Copilot. Are people spending more time in meetings? Are people feeling empowered to decline meetings? Right? We're adding one of my favorite features. We're adding a follow feature that we've announced where you can say, I'm not going to accept or decline the meeting. I want to follow the meeting. What does that do? It enables people to know, I'm not showing up for the meeting, so please don't ask me to come. But if it's allowed, please record the meeting or transcribe the meeting so I can catch up, so I can get some time back. But also giving me that nudge later on when the meeting was done to know about that meeting being done, knowing about the recap being there. So we see tremendous opportunities within Microsoft where people are feeling, having the ability and the grace in the space to decline meetings or not feeling guilty that they're triple booked and they can't be in 3 different places at the same time. And the nice thing is we're building that directly into the product to give folks more visibility into that. that's a quick example around some of the work we're doing inside of Viva Insights. I'm going to roll this quick video here that has a nicer little visual of it, gives me a chance to take a sip of water, and then I'll come back and talk a bit more about some of the advanced reporting features as well as how this applies inside of things like Viva Pulse.
Maximize the value of your AI investment with Microsoft Copilot Dashboard. Powered by Microsoft Viva, Copilot Dashboard helps business and IT leaders measure the use of Copilot for Microsoft 365 in their organization. Let's take a look. This purpose-built experience helps leaders identify areas where Copilot can transform work. See how people across the organization are using Copilot and Microsoft 365 apps to increase productivity and enhance how they work. Quantify time savings for Copilot users and compare their behaviors before and after adoption, and with those who don't have Copilot. Explore employee feedback about the value and benefits of Copilot. And access learning based on Microsoft research, evolving industry best practices, and the latest usage insights to stay informed on how AI is transforming work. All this information enables a better understanding of the effect Copilot has on performance across the organization. Drive meaningful changes in Copilot usage and adoption with Microsoft Copilot Dashboard powered by Viva.
Now again, we started off with the Copilot Dashboard. First off is a Power BI report, which is still available, where you can connect in and get visibility outside of Viva. The benefit of that, as well as the ability to share that report potentially with other folks, maybe that are part of different departments. We then built that into Viva Insights. And similar to Viva Learning, we are working on enabling folks, even without a premium Viva Insights license, to get access to this dashboard to help measure and drive usage and adoption. Now, there are certainly additional things that Viva Insights provides as a premium license above and beyond to look at organizational behavior and other things around meeting effectiveness and all that. But we really, again, want to empower folks to make decisions and drive additional adoption. And part of that is getting visibility into the usage. And again, the ability to benchmark different groups of people, not to be punitive and to target different groups of people. It's all anonymous and aggregated, but to help to identify where there's opportunities, where there's areas to, again, amplify great success stories and maybe reach out to why is marketing doing great in that area, but maybe sales isn't, to be able to tell their story as part of an Ask Me Anything or as part of a broader campaign. The other thing we can do, if you do have the premium Viva Insights license, there are analyst capabilities and kind of an analyst workbench where there are pre-built reports. You also have the ability to ingest additional content that might be outside of Microsoft 365. So a common thing is bringing in things like maybe average loaded salary for a particular role, bringing in certain leveling or title information. So again, the intent is not to look at different people, what is Allison doing versus Britt versus Jeffrey versus Chris, but it's meant to be looked at in the aggregate to help us understand, are there certain roles that are doing this? Again, what's the cost savings, not just based upon a flat average cost per hour that an employee might have, but to target, again, different groups of people, different individuals that might have a different potential ROI based on their level in the organization, as well as the role and the function that they have. The nice thing is you can take these pre-built reports, you can copy them, tweak them, and build your own additional reports that are tailored to your organizational needs and interests and how you define success and your objectives and key results as well. How many of you are leveraging Viva Pulse today? None of you yet? Okay. How many, out of curiosity, are leveraging things like Viva Glint today? For a broader employee listening? So we're not going to talk about Glint much right in this talk, but Viva Glint is a great solution that we leverage at Microsoft for doing our twice a year. We used to call it the Microsoft poll. It's a part of our employee listening service where we want to go out and get feedback from individuals twice a year around big things. We've integrated Copilot on there to help summarize the themes that are coming up. Viva Pulse sits somewhere between Microsoft Forms and Glint. So the intent behind Viva Pulse is we have pre-built templates and reports, but the information is anonymized and aggregated. You can set thresholds much like you do in Glint to get visibility because, again, we don't want this to be used in a punitive way. But what we found is when we're rolling out Copilot, one of the common things is how do we get feedback from individuals? And if you were in Caruana's session right before ours, they talked about the adoption kit. We'll give you a plug to that after. There's a great spreadsheet that they built of common questions that you may want to ask. But if you are leveraging Pulse inside of Viva, we've already built a pre-built set of questions that come with 5 standard questions of things you might want to ask. And then there's a catalog of 15 to 20 additional questions you may want to add. And those can be quantitative and qualitative. So some might be open-ended questions, some might be picking something on a scale of 1 to 5. And then we're bringing this data into the Insights dashboard to help us get visibility into what are people saying versus what is the data showing us. So inside of Pulse, inside of Viva, as I mentioned, there are a number of different questions, some of which we might suggest on a scale of 1 to 5. Some of them could be fun questions like, if you were given the choice of Copilot or free lunch once a week, what would you choose? An actual question we asked as part of the early adopter program. And the overwhelming, I think it was 70% or more people actually preferred to have Copilot over the free lunch. So that was one way that we measured that. But it's also things like, I was part of some tests where we had people do things on a stopwatch and then use that to benchmark the time savings that they had. But then we had a survey that said, just because it came back faster, what was the accuracy of it? Did you spend a lot of time cleaning it up and correcting it? So you want a mix of different questions that could be, on a scale of 1 to 5 that are easier to grab and drive a score from it versus open-ended questions which might have a bit more opportunity to allow for expression, sentiment, the ability to summarize that. And again, these might become input into answers inside of Viva Engage that might be FAQs, frequently asked questions of things that people are bringing up as part of those Pulse checks and those Pulse surveys. So there is reporting inside of Pulse. So the nice thing here is, again, you can define the threshold for how many people need to respond to this. So I've set it as low as 5. You can set it higher than that. You do want to make sure that there's some level of confidence that, again, this information is being used for good. The nice thing with it being built into Viva inside of Teams, it can send out regular nudges, so it can send people alerts. It can actually send them a notification inside of Teams to say, you have a pulse, could you please respond to it? And maybe it's a week before the pulse closing, getting a reminder that you still haven't responded to that. And again, it helps to gently remind people that we're seeking their feedback as part of the pilot as well. So with that, I'm going to hand it off to Jeffrey to talk a bit about goals.
So, don't we all want to be successful now? Do we really have a plan? I think the first place that we have to start off is with some goals and some direction. And typically from working with all the different apps that we have, so there's a whole plethora of apps here, and how do we best align those, make sure we have leadership buy-in and we're all tracking those effectively? How do we create, manage, and maintain all this data? Well, we start off with using Viva Goals. Viva Goals allows us to go through and create different measurement activities within Viva Goals that we can leverage throughout our organization. So where we want to start off is we want to start off with taking something like as simple as a vision document or a strategy document. And now Viva Goals includes Copilot. So let's leverage Copilot to help us to create some different KPIs or OKRs within our system that we as an organization can track and utilize. Part of this is actually also making sure that our teams are all inclusive in using the tool as well. So we want to make sure that the rest of our team is also plugged into this and using this effectively. That's where it comes into value here from our side, is that there's one place to go where everybody within your organization can track and understand what's happening within the rollout of Viva, from our side or from the Copilot side of the house, as well as any other objectives or initiatives that you have within your company. So we just want to make sure that everybody's aware that there's some great value here. Utilize the Copilot part of this to actually help you do all the heavy lifting here and start creating all of this great content that you can utilize within your companies. So getting into the OKRs themselves, like I said, you can use things from just going through on your side of the house and having your IT or your change management or your organizational readiness components, and you can have all the Copilot do the heavy lifting for you as well. So what you want to be able to do is take all of your different data points that you want to be able to track throughout your vision document that's broken down, and you want to be able to put those into OKRs that you and your team can track effectively. Then these can all roll up so that you can see success metrics at every level. So really the value in this is that when you're rolling out different components for Viva or for other products within your corporation, you can utilize this right now to effectively see in a one-stop shop and be able to track all this information to really set you up for success on here. There's also some, on the bottom here, you'll see a link right now for importing OKRs and things like that. So if you have existing OKRs, you want to get those into the system, the system is very flexible. You can use it also to compare and summarize different OKRs as well. So if you have have an employee that's working on a few different items and you want to take the two of those and summarize those and come up with progress reports, you can also do that as well. So that's kind of currently what we have for Viva Goals. Thank you.
We've gone through the Viva onboarding, the enablement, all of the different pieces. Hopefully you've seen a few of the apps that maybe your organization uses today, maybe some that they could start using. And then hopefully you've gotten some inspiration for things that you could use out of the box, where you could do some low lifts from Amplify and Insights and Goals, using Copilot to kind of help you get Copilot kind of off the ground at your organization. So hopefully you've gotten a few, and of course these slides are available to kind of double click into any of them to say, what does this look like for us? How do I get this? The step-by-step instructions as well. And then, of course, another plug for the Copilot adoption resources. There's resources at all different levels for executives, for leaders. How do you use Copilot as a communicator on the adoption site? We're also going to have guides, one-pagers that you can, again, continue to lift and repurpose within your organization, whether it's on Viva Engage. We have a new one coming out in a couple of weeks. I think that'll be like a Copilot passport, so your employees can kind of get stamps as they learn the different Copilots, and they could share their success and share what they're learning as well on all about Copilot. And then, of course, there's a Copilot class that is, I took it. It's super easy, but I learned a few things too. So, and I use Copilot every day. So some really, really interesting things. And then as we keep learning from you all and from our own experiences, we keep adding to this site. So definitely bookmark this, because we definitely keep adding to this. Trust me, I know the folks that kind of are in the background. We're always adding brand new things, trying to make it simpler for you guys to like rinse and repeat some of the things that we know works really well with employees.
From the Fast Track side of the house, there's some nice links up here to help everybody out. So Fast Track is a free service that we provide as part of your benefit for anything within the Microsoft space. What you can do is anybody that has 150 or more paid licenses can actually contact us, and we can do remote guidance to actually help your companies walk through the process of setting up and optimizing our products. So this is a wonderful service on here that you guys can fully utilize. Like I said, we will go through and literally walk you through the entire process. It's a wonderful experience, and if you need any help, we're here to help you. So thank you.
And of course, if any of this is like, I'm really curious about this, I want to trial any of this, we do have a variety of ways to trial the different Viva offerings. So we have opportunities for you to trial 50 users. And of course, we have opportunities to trial, I think, about 1,200 users. So if you're curious of like, this sounds really interesting, but we don't have Viva at all, let's get a little bit started with Viva, there's ways to trial it as well. So the 50 user one, that can be kicked off actually through the admin center. So if you have admin rights, you can kick that off directly through your admin center. If you need a little bit more, work with your Microsoft teams and they can ask for additional licenses as well. All right. Thank you so much for joining us. We're going to be here and around to answer any questions. We'll be at the Viva booth and for all the different sessions. All right. Thank you, everyone. Have a great day.